Good evening. Good evening. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, does bail reform need to be reformed? Well, many voters in New York seem to think so, although some elected officials don't and believe we should continue with the current bail reform that was put in place 2 years ago. Let's talk about it. I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered.
Freddie.
Tonight, does bail reform need to be reformed? Many believe bail reform needs reforming. What do you say? Good evening, folks. Good evening. Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, we talk bail reform. Does bail reform need reforming? Does it need to be reformed? Well, recently, a poll suggests that it does. More than 60%, 65% of New York voters are in favor of stricter bail reform. They said bail reform is just not working. Crime is up. Something has to be done. According to Westchester County Executive George Latimer, however, he believes that crime is going down here in Westchester. Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Senator Stewart-Cousins, agrees with him. She says crime is up, but not in Westchester. And recently, George Latimer released a video to show statistics that crime in Westchester is down. But is crime down in Westchester? Well, some say it's not. And if you live here in the city of Yonkers, you're saying it's going up, way up. And I want to play a video here from George Latimer, his crime is down video. He tries to convince people that we don't need to reform bail reform. Crime is going down in Westchester.
You might have heard that crime is out of control, that criminals are running rampant. But let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the facts, because here in Westchester County, crime is down. When the Westchester County Department of Public Safety compared January through September 2017 versus 2021, we see a decrease across the board. Total index crime has decreased 26.5%. Total violent crime has decreased 27.6%. Total property crimes have decreased 26.3%. Our police professionals, working with all elements of our communities, have made Westchester County a safe place to live. People move here, people stay here because of the advantages of Westchester County, one of which is knowing that they live in a safe environment. Crime is down. It's been down, it will continue to be down, because together, every day, we're building a safer Westchester for you and your family to grow and to thrive.
So do you agree? Is crime down? Is crime way down, as County Executive George Latimer states? Well, if you live in Yonkers, again, that's not what it feels like. There's been a rash of gun violence, gun shootings. There were recent shootings this week, in fact. Another individual was shot in a white Durango. Gunshots were heard over by the Whitney Young apartments on Ashburn and in Nepperhan. And as you know, we've recently had the Duo shooting that left one dead. I want to go over bail reform. What is bail reform? We've heard a lot. I hear a lot about it, but do we know the details? We know that, what we're hearing now is that bail reform means that people get arrested and then they get released. And that's been happening in some places. People have been arrested, they get released, and then they commit an offense. The second offense may be even worse than the first one. And people wonder why were they released to begin with. But let's talk about what bail reform is. Bail reform, New York State bail reform was passed in April 1st. April Fools. It's a fool's joke. It's a joke. April Fools, April 1st of 2019, New York State passed sweeping criminal justice reform legislation that eliminates money bail and pretrial detention for nearly all misdemeanor and nonviolent felony cases. Excuse me. The measure goes into effect went into effect January 2020, and I want to go over a little bit what that exactly that means, so you have an understanding of what type of crimes are impacted. Misdemeanors, money bail is eliminated with only two exceptions: sex offense misdemeanors and criminal contempt charges for an order of protection violation in a domestic violence case, right? So money bail, you don't have to put up bail if you get caught for all misdemeanors, except for sex offense and order protection violations, right? They don't want you going back and doing harm to your spouse or kids or someone in your family after being arrested. Nonviolent felonies, both money bail, this is crazy, and pretrial detention are eliminated in virtually all nonviolent felonies with a limited number of exceptions: witness intimidation or tampering, conspiracy to commit murder, felony criminal contempt charges involving domestic violence, and a limited number of offenses against children, sex offenses, and terrorism-related charges. So if you get caught with a gun, and this has happened, right? You weren't using the gun, you just had it in your waistband. You're walking down the street, you get pulled over by cops, they search you and they find this gun. Now, that's a felony, but it's not a violent felony. So you're getting released. You don't have to put up any bail money, and you don't have to wait in the county jail or the city jail until your trial date. But what if you caught that individual just before he actually was going to use it, and now you're giving him a second lease on murdering? He said, hey, I got caught with it, but I'm right back out. Let me go back, grab me another gun, and go finish off what I was going to do. And I think that's actually happening. This is why people are upset. Violent felonies, money bail, and detention are still permitted in virtually all violent felonies, except for specific subsections of burglary and robbery in the second degree. So all violent felonies, you still have money bail and detention, pretrial detention, except for some subsections of burglary and robbery in the second degree. Even if it's somewhat violent, what does that mean in the second degree? You grab somebody, but you didn't have a weapon, and you went in their pockets and robbed them. We're letting you back out. That's second degree. Bail and detention are also permitted in cases classified as Class A felonies, most of which are also involve violence. A notable caveat is that bail and detention are eliminated for all Class A drug felonies, with the sole exception of operating as a major trafficker. Well, I kind of agree with that. If you get caught with drugs, if you have a drug addiction, I think that they should send you to get help rather than put you in jail. Especially if you get locked up and you have a criminal record for drugs, you had addiction, and let's say you want to clean up and you get yourself sober and you get yourself together, and now you want to get a job, but now you have this conviction, right? So I think for something like that, I agree. It should be like help. You should go to some rehab facility. They shouldn't give you a criminal charge or a record for that, because part of trying to help an individual beat an addiction is giving that individual something positive to do. And a lot of times that's finding a job, something that they, love doing and make money for it now. So if they have a record, that could damage that, and they'll fall back into depression and using drugs. That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know about these felonies. Judges are required to consider financial resources when setting bail. Did they consider the financial resources of the individual that they just robbed, right? Or that they victimized? I mean, that's crazy. How did they get consideration? I thought when you were arrested, you didn't get consideration. I mean, you get some consideration. You get a phone call, right? Call your lawyer. And now you got to fight this charge. I mean, you shouldn't have been out there committing crime. And I get it. Not everyone is guilty. People who get arrested are not always the person that committed the crime, right? But I mean, I think the probability of it being that person is higher. And this is been the issue, because people have been released and they've been reoffending, right? And then people are just left wondering why. Why would you release an individual only to have him reoffend, right? This time, actually, like I said, he didn't get to kill the person. He was on his way, but he got stopped, took the gun from him, let him go, got another gun, and finished the job, right? So, yeah, I agree. I think that crime is up. I believe that, crime is up across the country, they say, but I think there's a lot of factors. I don't think it's just bail reform or need for more bail reform or reforming bail reform. I think our economy, has a lot to do with that. People have lost their jobs. People are desperate. And yes, they're making it easier now, because if you get arrested, you're going to get right back out. They're being easier on crime. Cops also, I don't know if, maybe this is just my opinion, but it seems like cops are not as willing to get involved, right? It's like, listen, we get involved and something happens, then we're the targets. The cops did something wrong. And I think a lot of this defund the police stuff has probably caused some people, or police officers, I should say, to say, you know what? I'm going to take it easy. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But I've heard that. I've heard that from people. I've heard that from people in law enforcement. And they say, I mean, look, they want us to go out there and do this job, but then, they come after us. They look at us like the bad guys, right? So we can't win. So why the heck am I going to go out there and try to chase some guy, hurt myself, and then they're going to release this guy as soon as I get him and he reoffends. And if I rough him up a little bit, I'm looked at as, so it's getting to a point where, some cops may not be wanting to do their jobs or wanting to be as aggressive, maybe, or as, just on alert, I guess, as they used to be, because they're concerned with maybe, repercussions of something happening during an arrest. And not to say that there haven't been cops who've done things that they should have, lost their job, probably been arrested for. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But we're getting to a place where it's like, I don't know. I mean, we don't want to, we don't want cops beating people up and police brutality and stuff. We don't want Rodney Kings going on, but we also don't want to get robbed by a guy that was just arrested and released, right? Who's had a mission to rob somebody, and he was given a second chance to do that. And I'm the victim now. So, it's tough. Mayor Mike Spano, he agrees that we need some reforming. He's blaming some of the crime on the bail reform that was passed in 2019 and went into effect in 2020, January 2020. 65%, like I said, of New York voters back stricter bail laws. New York State voters want to see the controversial bail law tightened amid concerns about a surge in violent crime, a new poll released Tuesday reveals. The vast majority of those polled, 91%, said crime was a very serious or somewhat serious problem, according to the Siena College survey. Siena, I believe, college survey. Of that number, 60% said crime is a very serious problem, while another 31% said it's a somewhat of a serious problem. The worries about crime cut across all regions and racial groups. So it's not just, white people, they want, they're racist, they want black people, Hispanics locked up. No, I mean, Hispanics, we don't want to see crime increasing either, I mean, that's what I say. Listen, police, I like the police. We need the police, right? Especially me. I got to be able to call 911. I don't want to have to kill somebody. I need their help, right? So we sometimes often go after cops, or we say things about cops. We call 911 when we need them. I've seen that happen many times. Oh, you need the cops now. Huh? 2/3 of blacks and Hispanics and 53% of whites also said they were very, or at least somewhat, worried about being the victim of a crime. New Yorkers say crime is a serious problem across the state. More than half of every demographic group says it's a very serious problem. And at least, how many times can I say it's a serious problem? And at least 84% of every demographic says it's at least a somewhat serious problem. Because that was like the serious problem, somewhat serious problem, a very serious problem. I guess those were the different categories. Meanwhile, 2/3 of voters agree with New York City Mayor Eric Adams that the controversial bail law needs to be overhauled by giving judges the discretion to detain dangerous recidivist felons, pending trial for a lesser offense. Under the current bail law, these defendants are automatically released pending trial if they are charged with a non-violent felony or misdemeanor crime that exempts them from cash bail consideration or detention. That's crazy. But Governor Kathy Hochul, oh yes, and the Democrats who control the state legislation have resisted Adams' request. Yeah, Kathy Hochul, the unelected evil governor that we have here in the state of New York, and I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. This woman, first of all, is not elected by anyone, okay? And she's been just horrible. She's the reason we have these masks. The first thing she did was implement those mask mandates when she got into office, and she wants to keep crime going up. She's not the only one, but she needs to get out of there. Hopefully she won't get elected back in there. I'm definitely going to vote against her, right? Adams met with Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, Speaker Carl, last week. The poll question asked 3 years ago, New York passed a law eliminating monetary bail for people facing misdemeanor and nonviolent felony charges. Which of the following two views is closest to yours? The so-called bail reform law should be amended to give judges more discretion to keep dangerous criminals off the street, or the law should not be amended to give discretion on bail back to judges because it could once again lead to people of color being disproportionately denied bail. Is this just about people of color, right? And I'm a Hispanic. This is about people. What do you mean? We don't want to be victims of crime, okay? If the guy got a gun, if they're felony, you arrest them with a felony, keep them in jail. Keep her in jail. We don't care what color they are, all right? I'm trying to keep my kids safe, and I think everyone should want that. It doesn't matter what color you are. Why are we making this about color? This is propaganda, folks. They're always dividing us by color, right? A total of 65% of the 803 respondents said the bail law should be amended to take into account a defendant's prior violent record, and only 27% of voters said the law should not be changed, while the rest were undecided. There's nothing to be undecided about. It needs to change. It needs to change. I think that, if it's that easy for someone to just get arrested and then released where they can reoffend, and it's happened, right? There have been cases of it happening, then it has to change. It has to change. It has to change. This is not about color. People of color, what do you mean? What do you mean? They're saying that, and I get it, people of color are arrested at higher rates. Is it because they're black or because they're Hispanic? Listen, I can talk about this, right? I grew up in the hood. Hispanics and blacks, all I grew up with. Those are my friends, my everything, right? But I love all people. I've been around all people. I've seen different environments and I've had different experiences. And I think if you're just limited to your one experience, it's hard for you to fully understand, really. Like if you're just like from Yonkers, because I know people like this. I know people that are just in Yonkers all their lives. They never left Yonkers. Adults that never been on a plane, right? It's hard for you to understand, really how society really operates. So your mind is not going to be able to really be expand in how you think and how you kind of make a decision on something, right? I went to Oklahoma. Black people in Oklahoma necessarily don't have a lot in common with black people in New York. And just because they're black doesn't mean they're going to get along or that they're automatically going to connect and click. They're two totally different people. We have to stop assuming and making everything about race. You go to the Midwest, a lot of successful black Americans. They drive nice cars and people don't assume that they're stolen because they know that many Black Americans are successful, right? But if you're in the hood and you got a brand new Mercedes and it's got a dude ragged up, another guy in the passenger, and maybe smoke's coming out the window, yeah, you're probably going to get pulled over. And you blame that on being Black or Hispanic or whatever, right? And I just think this is nonsense. I mean, this is nonsense. It's nonsense. We got to stop looking at everything and making things about color. We have to stop that. I mean, I had every disadvantage. Okay, I had every disadvantage possible. I was Hispanic. My dad was, addicted to drugs. My mother wasn't there for a while. My grandparents who were raising me didn't speak English, were on welfare, lived in a tenement building that with rats and roaches, right? Education, I mean, the highest, education in the house, maybe high school, even, out of my aunts and uncles. I mean, by 10, I probably was the most educated one in the house. I mean, I would go translate for my grandparents. I'd go and I'd see the racism. I feel it, I understand. I get it. But we have to stop always looking for a crutch. That's just what I'm saying. You can make it if you truly want. You work hard. If you don't want to go to jail, keep your ass away from places that you shouldn't be. I managed to stay away from jail. I was in the hood almost most of my life. Well, not most of my life. Well, yeah, most of my life. I was in, right? So if you want to not go to jail, don't commit crimes. Stay away from certain individuals. Stay away from certain environments. Right? When I went to high school, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I hung out with all kinds of people. They called my group of friends the United Nations. They did. Jewish, Muslim, Black, white, Hispanic, Mexican, Puerto Rican. They were the United Nations. We were the United Nations, right? None of us ever had to worry about police. None of us. Most of the people that went to high school, Black individuals, Hispanics, did not worry about the police. They weren't worried about getting arrested. Their biggest concern was what college they were going to get into. Black, Hispanics, yes. They made me feel like crap. I'm like, dang. Right? I was the poorest Hispanic one. All the Hispanic and Black Americans, beautiful homes. They had 2 living rooms. That was the first time I knew that people had 2 living rooms. My wife and her house, everybody had their own bathroom. And I was coming from fighting for one single bathroom, my mother and I, right? In the morning, hot water would go off, right? So, and she was Black. So you can't stereotype. And you can't assume that all Black people, experience racism, because none of my Black friends in high school ever talked about racism and that being a problem. None of them ever felt like they were not going to succeed in life. So I don't understand this. I don't understand it. It's not a color thing. It's a class thing and it's a person thing. You make bad choices, you're going to get the consequences of those bad choices. And I'm not perfect. I've made bad mistakes, and that's my fault. It wasn't because I was Hispanic, right? Or because a white man made me do it, or someone that's not Hispanic. So I don't see how having to create a bail reform that allows for criminals to get released right away is supposed to prevent, Black or Hispanics or people of color from going to jail more. I don't get that. I don't get that. It's the Democrats pandering to the, to Black and Hispanics. I think that's crazy. And like I said, I've seen another world outside of Yonkers, outside of the hood, right? And Black Americans, Hispanics, very successful. Very successful. They didn't worry about this. It was it like made me see things in a different way. Like I didn't have to keep, I was always doing this in the lunchroom, like looking over my shoulder. I'm coming from New York, right? You're always like scared. You always got to look behind your back. Well, not scared, but you just got to be like, watch out. And I remember one guy told me, he was a Black guy. Name's Adrian. He said, Freddie, this isn't New York anymore. Relax. You know, there was a different, it's about the environment. It's about the environment. And why I left New York was because my mother, eventually, when we got settled back out, she wanted to get me out of that environment. And it was probably the best thing she ever did for me. It was. And I didn't have to worry about going to jail. I didn't have to worry about cops. I just wasn't in situations like that. Just never had it. I mean, yeah, maybe I get pulled over. I get tickets. That sucks. And it's usually the Spanish guys that give me the tickets. The white guys let me go. Anyway, folks, yeah, that's bail reform. 65% of New Yorkers, voters, in a recent poll, want to see bail reformed. They believe they need stricter bail laws. I agree. George Latimer, however, believes that crime is down in Westchester. Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins says crime is up, but not in Westchester. I guess that all depends where you live. Not everyone's in Scarsdale. Not everyone is in Larchmont. Not everyone is in Chappaqua with the Clintons. Some of us are in Yonkers, Southwest Yonkers, South Yonkers. Some of us are in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle. Look at the high school in New Rochelle. Dangerous. Dangerous. So I think you should take a second look, Senator Cousins. Take a second look. You need to change bail reform. You need to reform it. Yes, you do. You cannot keep it the same. And it's not only reason why crime is up. There are a lot of reasons why crime is up. That's just one of them. With the lax laws, criminals are more brazen. They become more desperate as times get harder. The economy, jobs are being lost. The cost of goods and services is going up. Cost of living is up for everyone. And people are desperate and doing desperate things. But this is another issue that elected officials are elected to address. You can't just say, we're going to fix a problem by fixing bail reform or changing a law here or amending a law there. You have to understand what the root cause of the problem is. Perfect example. Why is it that kids in Oklahoma, Black and Hispanic kids in Tulsa, Oklahoma, don't worry about the same things that Black kids in New York, in Yonkers, in New York City worry about? They tell us that the rate of graduation is up, especially among minorities. But if it's like, you have to really, really wait, show me the numbers. But go to some other places. You don't have to look at the numbers. You can see the success in the Black and Hispanics there. They have great jobs. They've gone to college. They've started businesses. So this is not about race. Stop making it about race because they keep us divided that way, folks. Let's find out what the real issue is. It's about class. It's about the environment. When kids live and they grow up in poor environments, low socioeconomic environments where they see crime in their homes, before they even step outside, they've already been witness to crime. Many times they've been sexually molested by family members, neighbors, friends. So before a kid goes out into the street, many times in certain environments, like the one I grew up in, and meet a police officer or come across a cop who's going to arrest them, they've already been through hell. So let's address that. Because if you want to change crime, if you want to keep Blacks and Hispanics from going to jail, then I can show you how they do it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Because they seem to do a good job out there. What you need to do is clean up the environment, create programs and opportunities, promote marriage. More so than, I don't want to get into other things, but I'm just saying, we're not promoting the right things these days, man. It's like it's really backwards. They censor me for 30 days on Facebook because I post about a person who's warning others not to take the vaccine, but you have sexual images and videos and drug use and violence all over the internet, and that can get shared a million times. I can watch people beat their face in, and how many, and those videos. Look at the color of the kids, the ones I see, Hispanic and blacks. I'm not saying there aren't white kids fighting too. I see that too. But we sometimes are not doing ourselves favor by sharing videos like that. Okay. So we need to get to the root cause of the problem. It's not bail reform. It's not the laws. It's the people. It's the environment. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. I will be on today, Thursday night. I will be discussing the issue in Ukraine. I want to go outside of Yonkers. I don't want to just always talk about Yonkers and the same individuals. And not to say that I'm not going to talk about them anymore, but I want to expand. There's a lot going on in this world, right? And we need to be talking about this. What's going on in Ukraine? That could potentially lead us to World War III. So we need to talk about that as well. That does affect us here in Yonkers, especially if you have family members who are in the military. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters. And I just want to say, I mean, you know, it's very tacky, and really quick before I go, it's very tacky. It's distasteful, or I should say, it's tasteless. You know, doesn't show any class, integrity. When you are an elected official or some public official or individual, and you respond and you reply to people with insults because they disagree with your post, or maybe you believe that they disagree, because sometimes it's not disagreeing with your point. But I find that unbelievable that individuals who are elected officials or want to become elected officials or candidates, and that's how they talk and they respond to people, rather than articulate the reason why they believe whatever it is that they believe. Calling someone a coward or implying that they are, conspiracy theorist or just, anything that's insulting, rather than, articulating your point of view, or just not saying anything at all. If you can't say anything nice, or you can't explain in a manner that's professional, and that's respectful, especially if you weren't disrespected. To me, that says something about that person. It says a lot about that person. And if you're someone who wants to rush and send people off to war and send kids off to war to get killed, especially after we just came back from Afghanistan and all that nonsense, those conflicts there, that's still where a lot of young people have gotten killed for no reason, really, for no reason. And you're somebody that is pushing for that, yeah, let's go, but you have no skin in the game. You don't have any. You're not sending your kids. You're not going yourself. Then you're the coward. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Have a great night. Coward.
Let's get it popping.
That's right. I am Freddie Vasquez. That was Basement Politics Unfiltered. Bail reform needs to be reformed. Stop making everything about race. Give us some more credit. Tune in Thursday night, folks, as I'm back again with another episode and a special guest coming on soon. You won't believe who I will be having on. It was actually bet that I couldn't do this, and I'm going to do it because that's right. I should have betted money, but I don't like to gamble. Have a good night.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
No!